Hi folks, welcome to another episode of My Life with Robert Burns. Jim Thompson and Douglas Mackenzie here again to have a chat with one of our cronies from around the Burns world. Hi Jim, how you doing?
Doing great, Douglas. Another day, another dollar.
Glad to hear it. I don't know how you get another dollar when you're a retired man though, but there you go.
Pension day, Douglas, pension day, Tuesday.
Excellent. Well, tonight, folks, our guest is the former president of Higgis Duke Burns Club from Grangemouth and from Prestwick Burns Club. Tonight, folks, and cronies everywhere, please welcome Wally Gibson.
Hello, Douglas. Hello, Jim. Thanks for the invitation to have a wee chat with you.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. And glad to hear that you've recovered for your bout of COVID.
Yes, thankfully, I recovered it. It wasn't too bad, actually. Initially, I thought I just had a heavy cold. I'd actually been up at St Andrews in Perth at the weekend. And I just thought I'd got a bit of a head cold. But I'd been at a dance club on the Thursday and a dance class on the Friday morning. And I got a phone call from Mo, the dance teacher. She said, I've got COVID. I suggest you check yourself out. So on the Monday, I done a lateral flow test and it was negative. She says, no. Go and get a CPR test. Well, fortunately, living in Troon, I was able to book up one in Prestwick Airport. Went there, done the test. I still felt not too bad. I still thought I only had a cold. But on the Wednesday, I got the positive result. But it wasn't too bad. And by the Friday night, I was all clear. So
good.
All I've got now is a little bit of a raspy voice, and but I'm fine otherwise. Absolutely fine.
Well, as long as it lasts for about an hour, we'll be quite happy. But before we start, I know it's quite a smart tie. Is that a Prestwick tie?
Yes, it's the Prestwick Burns Club tie. I'm mindful of the fact that Jim Coots is up there looking down on me. Jim Coots, as you know, Douglas, was the secretary for Prestwick Burns Club for 18 years. Lovely man, very gentle man, very soft-spoken, quiet man, wonderful guy, wonderful servant to the club. But Jim could be a bit firm at times. And he liked to say to the office bearers of the club, when it's club night or when you're on official duty representing the club, you must wear your club tie. So being mindful of those words that are ringing in my ear, and I know he's up there looking down, the club tie's on.
Brilliant. Well, Jim, I hope you enjoy this episode, because if he's still been with us, he certainly would have been a candidate for a future episode.
Oh,
lovely man.
Lovely man. So knowledgeable as well, you know, and a great bowler. He was a bowling partner of mine at the Prestwick Bowling Club. Lovely guy. Miss him greatly.
Very good. Well, giving a tribute to Jim, and quite a few of us and the people listening will know Jim well.
Yeah.
What about yourself? We always start these podcasts off with the same question. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, my background, my family background. Well, my great-grandfather on my father's side, I like to call him Willie Gibson the first because I'm Willie Gibson the third. He was from Armagh in what is now, he came in the late 1800s to Glasgow, to the Carlton area. And he was from Armagh, which is now Northern Ireland. My mother's side, my grandfather, he came from Monaghan, which is now Southern Ireland. Ironically, they're only 25, 30 miles apart. And he also settled in the Bridgeton area, not far from where my granddad was in the Carlton. On my father's side, my granny Jean, she was a Glasgow woman. And on my mother's side, my granny Mary, she was from Dundee. So if you like, my biological makeup is 25% of what's now Southern Ireland, 25% of what's now Northern Ireland, 25% Glaswegian, and 25% Dundonian. So, and I suspect that's given me this thirst and the desire to be traveling all the time, because I've been quite a number of places in my working life and in my social life as well, my Burns life too. But that's my background. And I was born in Glasgow in 1947. And at the time I was born in Glasgow, my father was serving in the RAF. He was in Cambridge and Wittering. And then he got a transfer back from, I think it was Wittering, back to Lucas in Fife. So my mother, because she had family in Dundee, when I was only 6 months old, we moved up to Dundee because it was easy to travel 20 minutes on the train from Lucas to Dundee. So I spent the 10 years of my life in Dundee. And my first school was Blackness Primary School. We called it the Blackie. And I only found out a couple of months ago, a wee tenuous link to Burns here. Whilst I was at Blackness School, 5-year-old, there was a lassie who was a couple of years older than me at the school, and I only found out 2 months ago. That was Sheila Wellington, the singer, the Burns singer who done the opening ceremony at the Scottish Parliament. Was it
we did an episode with Sheena a few months back.
Oh, lovely woman. But anyway, I never inherited any of her singing skills from my time at Blackie. I didn't stay at Blackness very long. I moved out to Coventry. My father came out of the RAF in 54, and a couple of years after that, we moved back to Glasgow. He was 14 years in the RAF. In fact, I'd like to tell people this. The only thing I ever won in my life was best drilled boy in the boys' brigade. My father was a drill sergeant. But Jim, you'll appreciate this. And one of the reasons I think I won that contest was, I think I was the only boy in the company who managed to get the left inclined 45-degree turn, the right inclined 45-degree turn. I managed to get it right. Jim, I'm sure you'll remember that from your days at Tully Allen.
And before that too, as a boy in the Army Cadets. No.
Oh, there you go. So, and then when I was 10 years of age, the family moved back to Glasgow, to the east end of Glasgow in Bridgeton. And they went to Dolmarnock Primary School. I don't remember much about it, but I can remember the teacher introducing us to a poem of Burns and explaining it to her. It was To a Mouse. But I think I'd be about 11 at the time, never took much notice of it. And then when I moved to Berners Street Secondary School, again, we got introduced to Burns. And the English teacher, John Hannah, I think it was because I still had a little bit of a Dundee, as my aunt used to say, a Dundee twang, and had a different way with some words than other guys in the class. So John Hannah would select me to stand up and read the poem, A Man's a Man for All That, because, as I say, there's a few different words from the rest of the guys in the class. So that was my first introduction to Burns, with English teacher John Hannah, and A Man's a Man for All That.
And what other subjects did you do at school?
Well, just the general stuff. It was a junior secondary school, so I left. I never had any qualifications. And I was very good at the practical stuff, sheet metal work, joinery, etc. But as I say, the poetry was quite good, because I was able to, there was a concert coming up, and John Hannah was trying to get me, well, he did get me to read. I couldn't recite it, A Man's a Man for All, but I could read it through the book. And I remember he announced that I don't sing Burns, and it wasn't an embarrassing experience, it was a humiliation. he announced that the English teacher was looking for boys to join, the music teacher was looking for boys to join the choir. Needless to say, East End of Glasgow, we don't do choirs. That's for lassies and sissies. We don't do choirs. There's a group of 4 of us. In front of me was my best pal, Davy Allen. Next to me was Jackie Galbraith. And behind me was Bobby King. And Bobby leaned forward and he whispered, "Hey guys, the last page on a Monday is algebra. So immediately, sir, I think you'd like to join that music class." So that last period on a Monday, the music teacher's about a dozen lassies in the corridor, and 4 would-be Cliff Richards trying to join the school choir. And when he goes in, Miss Mackenzie was delighted to see us all. And she says, "Right, okay, this is a song we'll be doing for the Christmas concert. Okay, start up. Good King Wenceslas looked out. Oh, hold on. You boy, what's your name? Davy Allen. Come out here. Do that scale, Davy Allen. Do, re, mi. It's okay. This choir won't need you. You just go back to your class. You, what's your name? Gibson. Come out here. Do that scale. Oh, do, re, mi. Okay. This choir won't need you either, Gibson. You go back to your class." And that was the humiliation in front of all these lassies. And I've never sang since ever. Tried it one more time. But ironically, my pal Bobby King, he stuck with the choir and it done him well. He became a professional singer. Very good. Around all the pubs in Glasgow that used to be very popular in the 60s and 70s and 80s. Right up until the 90s, Bobby was doing very well. So that was my schooling, if you like. And my humiliation at trying to sing foreign songs.
So what did you do when you left school?
Well, I left school, I had no qualifications whatsoever. As I like to tell people, especially my family, when I left school, I had 2 O levels, one in French kissing and one in plasticine work. But as I say, I was good at the practical stuff. And my father said to me, because I was good at woodworking, I get sent to a carpenter's place, whatever it was done through the school or whatever. And I'm sitting waiting to get an interview, and this door opened up, and you couldn't see nothing but dust in this workshop. So I left there very quickly. I didn't stay for the interview. My father had a friend called Harry Watson, who was a foreman sheet metal worker. My dad says, "Go up and see Harry." And this is repeated a number of times. I was very, very fortunate in my working life, because they cut this sheet metal workshop. A young lad in his 5th year, a young lad who just went from 2nd year to 3rd year. So I landed in this workshop looking for an apprenticeship. And Harry said, "Well, these lads have moved up. You can start." So I started at 15. And you didn't start your apprenticeship till you were 16. So if you like, it was a pre-apprentice. And I get the best bit of advice I'd ever got. Old Willie Morrison was there. He says, "You should go, these lads got to start night classes in August. You should start as well." And that's what I did. I started in night classes. And I went there 3 nights a week to the technical college. And then when I was in my 2nd year, a couple of the lads, they're all above me, were more skillful than I was. And a tradesman, Jim, I worked beside good, skillful guys. He said, "Maybe you should go to a different workshop and get a broader range of your skills to learn, your trade to learn." And I did that. 2 of the guys were in my class. So when I got my certificate, I switched company. And I'd done a year there. And then I was at still at night classes, 3 nights a week. Some of the lads in my class were saying that if they get by 1st year sitting girls and 2nd year night classes, their employer will let them go to day release. And I stuck in very, very hard to make sure that I got a good mark. And I got a good mark, and I marched along to the other company in August, showed my certificates, got a start in this workplace, Sun Ventilating Company, one of the best companies in Scotland, and I got going to day release. So Unusually for an apprentice, most guys went to the one workplace that stayed throughout their apprenticeship. I spread my apprenticeship over 3 different companies. And each and every company I was in, I had the great fortune of working beside very, very good, highly skilled tradesmen who passed on their skills to me. And in addition to that, when I went to the day release, there was 2 excellent tutors at the college. The senior lecturer was a guy called Andy Stewart. And ironically enough, the second tutor at the college was a guy called Charlie Murray, whom we called Chick. So during the 1960s, we had an Andy Stewart and a Chick Murray teaching us.
That's very good. So as a sheet metal worker, was it always in the sort of ventilation industry, or did you get involved in other things?
Oh, well, the first one was the company made neon signs, and it was mostly tin plate stuff. The second company, Harry's, was a general shop, but it was this third company that was ventilation. And then I got my final sitting gills, and I got a very good passmark again to these tutors. In fact, Andy Stewart, the senior lecturer, got a hold of me and 2 other guys, and he said, "You guys will be coming back for what you call the full tech year." He says, "You guys are not just the top 3 in Glasgow. So you're the top 3 in Scotland." Because he had all the marks. He sat in the Sitting Guilds board, and he had all the marks of all the apprentices from all the colleges over Scotland. He says, "You know, if you wanted to go into teaching further education colleges, teaching sheet metal apprentices, you have the qualifications of the trade to be able to do that. However, you can only go to teacher training college if you've got a minimum of 3 O levels." So there was Gibson, back at night classes again. I got my first O level at 21, and I kept going. In fact, my pal Ian Laval, not only was he the top boy in Scotland, he went to the international competition in Madrid and came back with a gold medal.
Oh, very good.
He was not just the best sheet metal in Scotland, best sheet metal apprentice. He was the best apprentice in the world. That's the kind of training we got. And I speak about that. I had a great working life, all because of the training I got, the tradesmen, and at the technical college, and the assistance with my education, and going back to night school to get O level. Great training I got. Very fortunate.
So how did we get from there to you being in Troon and really into dancing?
Oh, well, the dancing started very young. I was only 16, and there was a few clubs opened up, but on a Monday night at the night school, it was from 7 o'clock to 9. At 9 o'clock, I raced out the college, and I raced from Broad Street, Bridgeton, all the way up to the Denison Pally to get in there before 9:30. And the reason being, if you went in before 9:30, it was 1 and 6. After 9:30, it was 2 and 6. And when you're a 16-year-old apprentice, that shilling was a big difference. So I started dancing at 16 in the Denison Pally. And then a night, there's a jive club called the Lindella Jiving Club. Went there for a short period of time. There was a lot of clubs round about Glasgow, the centre of Glasgow, the Cave Club. And then 17 graduated to the Barland. And so that was the start of my dancing, if you like. And then I left Glasgow to go and work in England. Worked in London and places like that. Good jobs, earned good money. And I ended up in Coventry. And that was my first Burns Club. I joined the Tam O'Shanter Burns Club in Coventry in the 1970s. And it claimed to be the biggest Burns Club in the world. And it was my first Burns supper as well in 1972. And here's a bit of irony as well. I only discovered this when Jane Brown and I think, were over in Columbia, South Carolina with the Ravana. When I lived in Cowden Road in Coventry in the 1970s, in Diggs, next door was Mrs. McAlinden. And Jane Brown was staying in Mrs. McAlinden's house next door to the house the Diggs I was in. Small world, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing.
Anyway, I came back to Glasgow, I got a job there, and I met Isabel, my late wife. We met in the Barland Ballroom, actually, and got a great job, and we got married, got a great job in Glasgow, a company called Associated Metalworks. They were the top company in Scotland, making products from stainless steel. Wonderful company, great stuff. If you ever watch the old reruns of the old Taggart program, with Mark McManus in it, and you see the scene in the Glasgow City mortuary, there's been a murder in Maryhill, Taggart would say. And you see the post-mortem table, stainless steel post-mortem table with the corpse on it. You can tell your family. See that post-mortem, see those post-mortem tables, there's 4 of them in there. I know the guy that made them. So that's the kind of work I was doing. And then also, I remember a few years ago, there was a fly in the wall documentary about the Royal Infirmary. And if you ever see that fly in the wall documentary, you'll see in the operating theatre, the surgeons and the nurses doing the scrub up on the stainless steel troughs in that Royal Infirmary. I know the guy that made those stainless steel troughs. Claim to fame in manufacturing. The King of Saudi Arabia, I think it was King Faisal at the time, getting a brand new yacht built. And he wanted a handmade bath, stainless steel bath. It was all shaped that they fit in. Stainless steel toilet and stainless steel wash hand basin with a pedestal on it. A wee pal had the great privilege of hand manufacturing that for Saudi. And that was the kind of work we did, highly skilled. A lot of it for the whiskey industry as well, and the milk marketing industry, stainless steel tanks and all of that. I really loved working there. And here's a wee tenuous link with Burns. I worked there for 9 years. The company got taken over by Cairn of Falkirk. The same company that turned Burns and Nicola away when they tried to get in. You see the big fiery furnace that was the foundry at Cairn.
And it wasn't a stainless steel they made in these days.
Sorry?
It wasn't a stainless steel.
No,
that
it was
they made in these days.
that's right, iron cast cannons, but the big fiery furnace. But again, I landed very lucky. I was the works convener there at the time. And my name was the first one on the redundancy list when the place went into receivership. I was only at work 2 weeks and I got a phone call with a friend of mine. How do you fancy working offshore, Gibson? On the oil rigs. I said, well, that's great money. So I started with a company called James Scott's. And we were up to a place called Nairn, where they built the oil rigs in Ardeshir. And there's a group of us there. And a pal of mine for school days, George Kane, from Airdrie Burns Club, he says, you know, we should have a Burns supper with the group. And George and I organised a Burns supper up there in 1982. And fantastic it was. 24 guys working up there. And we got into a hotel and 3 of the boys had their guitars. So there was me up there, involved in a Burns supper in there.
Excellent. Well, we've touched on Burns a wee bit, but we've not really got into it yet. So I'm going to pass you over to Jim, and Jim will get you talking about your interest in Burns and what about Burns inspired you.
Well, okay. Normally we start off, you know, how did you start with Burns? But you've already told us in terms of the school.
Yeah.
What was the name of the teacher that gave you the influence?
John Hannah. And the only reason, because I had a different kind of accent to the rest of the guys in the class, he would have me read a man's a man for all that. John Hannah, the English teacher, and our forms teacher as well at the school. Terrific.
And what led you to join in the Burns Club in Coventry?
Tam O'Shanter. I joined the Tam O'Shanter Club in Coventry, yeah.
Yeah, but what led you to that? I mean,
oh, it's a social club, sorry. It was a social club, and all the Scots lads joined it. And it was my first Burns supper. I think it was 1972. Yeah, it had been 1972. that I went along to that. I didn't participate in the club in any way at all. Just joined the club because it was a social club. And we'd go there on a Saturday night, they'd dancing in it. But that was my first ever Burns supper, was in the Tamil Centre. But when I settled, come back to Glasgow, I settled in Bayliston, and I was involved with the Labour Party. In fact, I was the chairman of the constituency in the East End of Glasgow. And we decided, I think it was 1984, to raise some funds for the elections of the councillors that were coming up. We arranged a Burns supper in Garrett Hill. And I was asked to do the toast to the lassies. Went along to that, and what a fantastic night that was. The guy doing the immortal memory was Alec Clark. And Alec Clark was the union official, Scottish Secretary for Equity, the Actors Union. And he spoke about another Lanarkshire man, Keir Hardie. And he quoted Keir Hardie. And I still use the quote that he used about Keir Hardie saying, Robert Burns had more influence on me than any other individual, living or dead. And he went on to be a very successful individual, Keir Hardie himself, with the principles that he picked up from Burns. In fact, Keir Hardie became the first official for the miners' union and settled in the Cumnock.
Yep.
And at that Burns supper, there was a guy called John Newlands. Oh, absolutely wonderful. He did Tam O'Shanter, he did Holy Willie's Prayer, he could do Man Was Made to Mourn, Cotter Saturday Night. John could do all of these things. In fact, John became my mentor. He got me into join the Bridgeton Burns Club, and so it picked up from there. What a wonderful, wonderful. We had a professional singer, a guy called Jimmy Dolan, and his daughter. Jimmy Dolan's claim to fame was he sang all over Europe. He also sang in Carnegie Hall in New York. We had him at this Burns supper, singing Burns songs. So that really got me into Burns. And then John Newlands helped me out. Dougie Hay, local councillor, who was a Freemason, I believe. Because the reason I say that, because Dougie got me to go to a few Burns suppers in the Baylisson, Coatbridge, Airdrie area. And from that, I was getting more and more involved. And then I joined the Bridgeton Burns Club through John Newlands, get me into that there. And then I moved from Baylisson to Pullman. And in Pullman, a guy in the local pub says, you need to join the local Burns Club, Higgins Duke Burns Club, which I joined. And they were a great bunch of lads. And what I got involved in there, when I was there, the guy called Jim Campbell, who won the Tam O'Shanter competition in the Priest, when he became president, he asked me to be his vice president. Great honour, so I agreed to be his vice president. Jim was only 3 months president of the club when he took a heart attack and died, which meant I had to step up and become the president. We had in the area schools competitions, Larbert, Stenhouse Muir, Grangemouth, Cairn, primary school competitions I get involved in. And because I didn't have a deputy, I had to carry on the second year. And then I got a deputy, and he left the club before he could become president. So Gibson was 3 years president. I guess the Burns Club. But what it gave me, I was the one left with responsibility of the schools competitions. And I met up with Helen Morrison. I was doing a Burns supper at Airdrie. My pal George Kane introduced me to Helen. And he says she does schools as well, because Helen's involved in schools, as she was in the schools committee. And Helen was quick to move. She says, you need to get involved in the Burns Federation, and you need to get involved in the schools committee. And Jim, you're like me, nothing get better than being involved with the schools competitions at national level. I was on the committee for 9 years, and I loved being involved in the schools competitions. Some of the kids were fantastic. I really, really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that.
It's a lovely, when you go and you see, I remember the first time I went to national finals, and there was a wee lassie about 9-year-old getting up and reciting in front of about 500 folk. And she was brilliant, you know, and I'm saying to myself, geez, this country's got a lot to give folk. But Helen Morrison, the same Helen Morrison, she sacked me for that committee.
Did she? Are they asking about that?
Aye, they asked me to, a subcommittee to put together some thoughts on where they were going, and I says, right, the four folk on the sub, you put it all together, and I'll do the reading of it when we get to the meeting. And the way berserker in the meeting. I never had one thought in the whole thing. So I get the sack, but never mind. But the federation, to be fair, the federation is a wonderful thing, and it does lots of good work.
Oh, I see those 9 years. I loved every minute. And funny you should say that. Where was I think it was doing it? The Carluke. There was this. It was primary school stuff. The wee girls about 9 or 10. No, 10 or 11. And I had been I was a facilitator helping the judges make sure the paperwork was up to date. I love doing that as well because you're in watching what's going on. And I've been to the bagpiping one. There wasn't many bagpipers, so I came into the recitals. I just sat down, and this wee girl got up, 10 or 11. She'd done the rights of women. Oh, I couldn't believe what I was listening to. Fantastic. And I turned to this guy sitting next to me. I says, that's absolutely wonderful. That's the best I've heard from a primary school kid. And he really lumped in his throat. He says, that's my granddaughter. I said, well, that'll take a bit of beating. And she won. Not only did she won the Burns Uni of the year that year. She was fantastic. Wonderful, wonderful. And they were all great. It was great to be involved in it.
You've been in there. Did you know, were you know doing a double act with Jane somewhere in
Canada? It still gets, we've done it just last month at the Troon Bowling Club. The background to that is, when I was involved in the Federation, Bob Stewart from Cooper was the president. Bob says to me, Gibson, you need to go to Rabana. He says, you'll love Rabana. You need to go to Rabana. And it was in Columbia, South Carolina. And I was happy to go there because there's a place I've always wanted to go to. I'm a great admirer of the American Civil War and all of that, and Abraham Lincoln and all of that. So I wanted to see Charleston and Savannah. So put my name down for Columbia, South Carolina. And about 8 of us went over, and one of them was Jane. So Jane spoke to me. She says, "You going?" I says, "Ah." She said, "Oh, let me just warn you, Willie. When you get over there, they like the Scots to make a contribution." I said, "Well, I can do a bit of reciting and a few jokes and stories." She said, "I know, that's why I'm asking you." And they like stories and any kind of sketches if you thing you've got in mind. And what I remember from a school's competition, and I think it was Larbert, when you're doing the scoring, there's a wee hiatus, if you like, and the teacher set this up. This lassie, I'm about 10-year-old, she's standing on the stage as if she's looking for someone. And this boy comes up with a wee rose in his hand. And he does a few lines. "My love is like a red, red rose." And he hands it to her. And she turns and she walks off the stage. Now, I thought, maybe she's supposed to say something, but she didn't. She just walked off the stage. So we're going, and Jane says to me, "A wee sketch or something?" I said, "Well, Jane, I'll try and put something together." And I drew on that. So I sent her down the script before we left and went over to Columbia, South Carolina. And on the Friday night, we get called up, and I'm doing the Red, Red Rose to her. And it's a famous sketch, isn't it? I'll not go into it because it gets repeated all over the world. Jane was fantastic. She's a wonderful, wonderful talent, as we know, but she's also a great actress. She's brilliant. And it was marvellous.
Aye, all round good egg, Jane. I mean, and she'd be vice president at that time.
She was. That's right. She was.
She was in front of me. I was her vice president.
Aye, that's right. She was vice president. Fantastic. As I say, we done it last month at Troon Bowling Club on supper.
Well, you've mentioned that you do a bit of recitations and stuff. I'll maybe come back to that later on, but there's a wee bird that tells me you're a bit of a singer.
Oh, listen. Oh, no, please. Have you been talking to my nephew?
Well, I'm a Polish. You don't have to give my sources away here.
Oh, right, okay. Is it just between the three of us?
It is. There's nobody watching anyway.
All right. When I didn't go into this, but after oil rigs, I became a trade union official, right? And one of the things I did was sat on a national committee for the heating and vent training, a training board. And I went down to London, the Queen Elizabeth Conference Centre in London. My boss couldn't make it, so I had to make the speech. So the president of the association makes a speech. The chairman of the training board, who was a director of a major company, makes a speech. And he makes reference to burns. And I had to make a speech which I prepared. And I took the liberty of making reference to burns myself. And I finished off by saying, and if I may paraphrase the words of our poet Robert Burns, whilst we may sing and praise the employers and the association, let's never forget the apprentices and their tutors at the colleges. This guy came up and he says, I thought that was a bit cheeky, but quite clever the way he slipped in a bit of Burns in response to me. And from that day to this, Stuart Lyon and I have been the very best of friends. Best of friends. And I had him up at the Technical College in Glasgow, and he had me down at the Kilmarnock Number Nothing Club. We shared a platform on a number of occasions, all based on that comment he made and I made way back in 1994. Anyway, Stuart was up, and I think he was doing the Immortal Memory, and I think I was doing recitals. And I was down to do 3 recitals, and I turned up at the Technical College, and I looked at the programme. I'm down for 4. And I hadn't prepared for 4, I prepared for 3. Tam O'Shanter, 2 a mouse and something else. Oh, 12 wives. 3, aye, 12 wives. Anyway, what am I going to do? And I walked into the toilet just before we started, and there's this guy gargling. Campbell Hughes, trained by Scottish Opera, a wonderful, wonderful singer. And I says to him, oh, Campbell, I says, are you planning to sing A Man's a Man for All That? So I don't know, so ask the audience what they want. Why? I says, well, I've got to recite a 4th one. I says, I can do that. I said, but I can't do it if you sing it. Oh, well, I'm not singing. He said, but why don't you try reciting the first 4 verses and sing the last one? I said, I've heard that done. It's good, Campbell. I says to him, if I do that, will you join me? Campbell says, aye, no problem. What are you, a bass or a baritone? I said, I don't know, Campbell. So in answer to your question, Jim, can I sing? He said, well, let me hear you. So I starts up, then let us pray that come at me. And he patted me at the back and he says, it's all right, just recite the last verse as well. Another humiliation. So that was it. 2 humiliations, one at school and one at Glasgow Technical College. I've never tried to sing since.
Well, I thought,
keep that to yourself, guys.
well,
Not a word.
I would have thought, given all the burn suppers you're doing in Lanarkshire, so you might have been tempted to be doing a wee song or 2.
No. But I'll tell you what I did do. In my time as a union official, I used to go to conferences and whatever. I won a very successful case against an employer who sacked a lady when she was pregnant. She got £10,000 of compensation. And when I went down and I was asked to talk about this, I finished off by quoting Burns. Whilst Europe's eyes fixed on mighty things, the fate of empires, the fall of kings, while quacks of state must each produce his plan, and even children lisp the rights of man. Amid this fuss, just let me mention, the rights of women merit some attention. And I have to tell you, after I won that employment tribunal case and the £10,000 for that woman, I was able to quote that at conferences. And I had a delegate that went down from an Edinburgh insurance company to a conference in Brighton and done the exact same thing. It became, I feel like, a well-known quote within the union circles because of the case and the relevance of Burns that I was able to use. So I was doing bits and pieces of Burns in my working life when I was a trade union officer.
You've talked about recitations. Any favourite poems?
Well, I like doing Tam O'Shanter. I really like doing Tam O'Shanter. I took part in the competition in Dumfries a few years ago, and I didn't win it. But I really enjoy doing that one. And To a Mouse, I like doing that as well. A man's a man for all that. I'm just in the process of learning. I was going to do it, but epistle to a young friend. And my late wife, her name was Isabel. She was actually christened Isabella. And her mother was Mary. So at Christmas, New Year time, I would do the flowery springly sunny summer, the yellow autumn presses near. In its turn comes gloomy winter. I'll smile and spring again appear. The seasons dancing, life advancing. All time and nature their changes tell, but never ranging, still unchanging. I adore my bonny belle. I like doing that with her at Christmas and New Year time, because her mother and father would be over for Christmas and New Year.
It's a handy out of ones. It's a handy out of things if you.
Listen, her mother was called Mary. So if they turn at Christmas and New Year, they turn, oh Mary at thy window be. It is the wish, the thrice of hour. Those smiles, those glances I long to see, that make a miser's treasure poor. How blithely would I bide the stew, a weary slave from sun to sun, could I the rich reward secure. The lovely Mary of a Glasgow sun. You're going to keep in with your mother-in-law, guys.
Oh dear.
Oh, very good.
Okay.
So tell us a bit about how you got from Bridgeton Burns Club to Prestwick Burns Club.
Oh, well, after Isabel died, a couple of years after Isabel died, I retired from the union, and I was quite happy to be playing golf. I was 62 then. I was at a conference at the Glasgow City Chambers on health and safety, and an MP, Ian Davison, came up and said to me, I understand you've retired. I says, yeah. He says, I'm looking for someone to be a political assistant with me, working 2 days a week in the office, which I did. And I'd done a couple of years at that. And my family, my sisters and that, my nieces lived down here in Ayrshire, Kilmarnock and Irvine. So I decided to move down to Ayrshire, and I moved down here, first of all to Irvine. And a pal of mine said to me, he says, you can get involved in the Burns Club, Prestwick Burns Club. And I knew Jim Gibson from the Federation, and Jim had moved from Kilmarnock down to Prestwick. So that's why I joined Prestwick Burns Club. And I've had a great, 6 years now. Some talented people in Prestwick Burns Club, absolutely wonderful, great singers as well. And also, from that, in the Federation, I've been to Rabana a few times in, Columbia, then Calgary. I got this at the Calgary Burns Club when I did the Immortal Memory for them.
Oh, that's lovely.
Absolutely beautiful, yeah. And then Dallas, Texas. Oh, listen, Jim, Douglas, when you meet Jane, ask her about the road trip through Texas. Oh, fantastic. The Burns. Sorry, can I carry on? Yeah, I'm taking too much time.
No, keep going.
The Rabana was in Dallas, Texas. Now, you probably like me, guys. Ever since I saw the John Wayne film, The Alamo, I've always wanted to see The Alamo. Will Travis, Davy Crockett, and Jim Bowie were descendants from Scots. And when you look at the roll of honour of all those that died at the Alamo, there's a number of Scottish names is unbelievable, Scottish and Irish. So anyway, put my name down for Dallas, Rabana. I got a phone call from Jane. Willie, are you doing one of your road trips after the conference? I says, I always do. When I did Calgary, I went up through the Rockies, Jasper, Banff, Kamloops, down into Vancouver and back. I said, I'm doing one of my road trips, Jane. She says, would you mind if I come with you? I says, absolutely no problem, Jane. And a few days later, I got a phone call from Peter Hughes. Understand for Jane, you're doing a road trip. What are you doing? I told him, I says, I'm going to leave Dallas. I'm going to go down to San Antonio. San Antonio, I get told, Houston's an industrial city, so go to Austin, Texas, back up. Can I come with you? So there we were, the three Scottish amigos, ripping it up through Texas. And the company was fantastic. You know, Peter's great company, good singer as well. Jane's Jane. We had a fantastic 5 days. Three amigos traveling through Texas. And after San Antonio, we went to Austin, the capital. A great city, by the way. I got tipped off about that. I made a great time there. And we found ourselves in one of these Texas line dancing places. What do they call it? Or step dancing or something. You know, they do all this stuff with their thumb in their jeans and that. You know, you've seen the.
Is it not called clogging?
Oh,
Clogging
is that what it is? If you've seen any Chris Christopherson films, you'll see this. They do line dancing. So Jane and I and Peter are in this place, and they're up doing all this step dancing and line dancing with their big boots on. And then the band played a slow number that you could do a waltz to. I've got to tell you, Jane's a very, very good dancer. So we got up there and we showed them how to do a bit of proper dancing. Thanks to Jane, she was marvelous. Oh, great. And on the way back, I says to Peter Hughes, great fun. He says, well, what are we doing? I said, well, we're going to Waco. He says, Waco, but that's where that religious cult, that guy slaughtered. I remember that.
Waco
He says,
is
what are you going
famous.
there for? I says, well, no going there. I says, that's all pulled down. And I says, what a lot of people don't know about Waco, it's the home of the Texas Rangers, and they've got a museum. The Texas Rangers Museum is in Waco, and we stopped there. And for 4 hours, Peter Hughes and I were Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, wearing the hat and the gear on, shooting it out in the museum.
Turn into the Waco Kid.
The Waco Kid, that was Peter, that was the me. But when you're with Jane, next time you'll be, or Peter, ask him about the three amigos in Texas. Wonderful trip, wonderful trip.
But I mean, you talk about line dancing in Texas. You've made a living out of dancing, I'm told.
Well, very, very lucky. The background to dancing, apart from going to the dance halls in Glasgow as a teenager, when Isabel and I got married, Isabel was a wonderful, wonderful singer. At the age of 14, she started singing with Glasgow Youth Choir. Excellent singer. And she sang with the church. And we went along married. And we moved to Bailison. Moved out to Bailison. She came in one night, she says, say if we had an advert up on the board, there's a couple starting at ballroom dancing classes, Bannerman High School. We're going to go to the ballroom dancing classes. I said, I don't do ballroom dancing classes. I says, I do football. I do golf. I says, I like to play pool in the social club. I says, I don't do dancing. You like me to make you mince with carrots cooked through it. If you want me to continue making you mince with the carrots cooked through it, you're going line dancing. You're going dancing, ballroom dancing, boy. Anyway, but see, when I get into it, I really, really enjoyed it. We didn't have any kids. So it was a great social scene. We'd go away for weekends, did our dances at Dunblane Hydro in particular. You know, so we get into that. And we're going to classes and doing very well. And Isabel took ill. She had kidney problems and she went on to kidney dialysis. So I fell away from that. Well, when I moved down here to Ayrshire, I was at a tea dance in Town Hall, an afternoon thing. And I saw this couple dancing, and the guy was showing the lady what to do. I says, is this you got a ballroom dancing club? And they told me about it. So actually I joined two. I joined one in Prestwick, at St. Quivick's Church Hall, Noel and Christine. And I was dancing there for a while. And then I went to one in Irvine where I was staying. And when I was there, the couple that ran the dance club, they said, Noel and Christine said to me, "You're at a reasonable level. Maybe you should go on the cruise ships and dance." Well, at the age of 70, I had to go down, my family laugh at this. At the age of 70, I had to go down to St. Anne's and do an audition that I managed to get through. And it's been fantastic the past 4 years, apart from the pandemic. So I get through this audition and I go on the cruise ships. In addition to going on the cruise ships, I also go to dance weeks and dance weekends in hotels. Out of season, they have dance weekends, dance weeks, hotels throughout the country. Been to St. Anne's, Bournemouth, Eastbourne, I think. And then on the cruise ships. My first cruise was on the Queen Mary from Southampton to New York. And I came in with my paperwork and they said, "Oh yes, you're a guest entertainer. Sit over there in that VIP area and wait to be called." And I thought to myself, well, that's right. That's VIP area. That's where our boy from Brigton belongs. He belongs in the VIP. So, and I love telling this story. I'm stepping forward. They call the up to go into the VIP check-in area. As I'm walking up, at the corner of my eye, I seen this figure walking, 3 figures walking, and I recognised the lady's uniform. So I stood back and let him go. The first VIP checking in was Sir Michael Parkinson, who was a guest speaker on the ship talking about his career. The second VIP was wee Wally Gibson from Brigton. And I've had a great time so far. I've got a tip to say career. I suppose it is a career. I've been to the Caribbean, the Mediterranean. Next Tuesday, a week tonight, I'll be on a cruise ship leaving Liverpool for Iceland and the Azores. I think I was saying that to you.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to see Iceland. You can't go there on holiday. It's far too expensive. But the best way to see it is from a cruise ship. You do all your visits during the day, back on the ship at night, and it's sailing down to the Azores, place I've never been. And I'm looking forward to that. But I've had a wonderful few years of doing it. As I say, the Caribbean, the fjords, I love going to the Baltic. In July, I'm on a cruise from Rosyth into the Baltic, Copenhagen, Malmo, Gothenburg, Stockholm. Lovely. And traveling the world and not costing me a penny. And all I've got to do is what I'd be doing anyway if I was on as a passenger, just dance with the ladies.
Excellent. I think I think you gave us a photograph of you as a dance host. Is it okay if we share it on this?
Oh, you have to.
Anyway, let's get back to Burns because we've only got about 5 minutes left.
Oh, sorry, guys, I'm waffling on. Sorry.
It's been great, so don't worry about it. But I think we need to get some recitation out of you if we can.
Oh, right now. Oh, okay. Well, I mentioned earlier about Helen Morrison getting me involved in the schools competition, getting me involved in the Federation of Schools competition. It came up just a few days ago. It was Helen's birthday. So maybe I should do a recitation for Helen for her birthday.
That'd be great.
For once I loved a bonny lass, and I love her still. And whilst that virtue warms my heart, I love my handsome Nell. As bonny lasses I hae seen, and money fu is braw, but for a modest graceful mean, the like I never saw. But Helen's looks are blithe and sweet, and what is best of all, her reputation is complete, and fair without a flaw. She dresses, I say neat and clean, both decent and genteel, and then there's something in her gait, makes ony dress look weel. A gaudy dress, a gentle air, may slightly touch the heart, but its innocence and modesty that polishes the dark. 'Tis this in Helen Morrison that pleases me. 'Tis this enchants my soul, for absolutely in my breast she reigns without control.
Well done.
Excellent.
My mother was called Helen as well.
Now, is there any lady's name that we could come up with that you wouldn't find a poem to suit?
No, it's amazing. I had the great privilege of being at Camperdown, the Burn statue there. My niece lived quite close to it. And again, there's a lady there at the council taking photographs of me, my kilt being there. And her name, I think it was Aileen, I think, if I remember. So, anyway, of all the earths the wind can blow, I dearly love the West. There's not a, sorry, if all the earths the wind can blow, I dearly love, it's there the bonny lassie lives, the lassie I love best. Where wildwoods grow and rivers flow, and many a hill between, but day and night my fancy's flight is ever with Aileen. And I switched it. There's not a bonny flower that springs by fountain short or green. There's not a bonny bird that sings, but minds me of Aileen. And she thought that was wonderful. That Australian lass, something like that. So you're right. You can change it about, and I do that all the time, actually.
I always think it's a lovely gesture. If there's a host or a chairman, chairperson nowadays at supper, if they can use a verse that includes the guest's name, I think it's a tremendous thing to do.
Well, one of the wee tricks that I do on the cruise ships, I take roses with me, and I also take a number of poems like Handsome Nell and All the Earths the Wind Can Blow, Mary Morrison, My Bonnie Belle, and I have the poems in envelopes. And if there's a lady in the cruise, because you do coffee mornings celebrating a birthday, then I'll do a bit of recital and change it to suit her name and leave her with the envelope with the poem inside it. That goes down well.
You're just a big smoothie.
I know. Hey, do you know what I tell Tim? Do you know what I tell people? I'm good at it as well.
Oh, you're also.
There's a lady on the Queen Victoria, and she was celebrating her 90th birthday. And I did that, and the assistant cruise director stopped the band, and my other dancers brought her forward because I was standing waiting. And I did the red rose, gave her the red rose, and the poems inside, and recited My Love Was Like a Red, Red Rose. She was celebrating her 90th birthday. Her daughter had to cancel the cruise because she took unwell. So the lady was on her own. I've got to tell you guys, she loved it. You know, a woman on her own on the cruise ship, 90th birthday, and all the other ladies round about. See, being able to do that, it's nothing to me. It's easy to do. But she's going home feeling terrific about celebrating her 90th birthday on a luxury cruise ship and getting that kind of attention. Small matter, but she liked it.
Well, Willie, I think we're all going to go home feeling happy that you've told us about your life with Robert Burns. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'm sorry for talking so long. My brother John's 2 years younger than me, and he says to people, he never spoke until he was 3. Because when he turned 3, I turned 5, and I went to school, and then he got a chance to talk.